everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the OWCRA podcast, or as I like to call it, the OCRAP. We released rankings yesterday, and now people are mad at us, so we're here to talk about it. My name is Dividing, and I'm, of course, joined by my co-host, Luey, who is here with me every single episode. But we've got two new guests this time around, Lion and Drew, coming on to the podcast for the first time. Like I've mentioned, these two slots are going to be sort of rotating slots every episode. So, obviously, people watching might not know who you are. Let's start with Lion. How about you introduce yourself and explain your involvement in Collegiate Overwatch?
Yo, I'm Lion. I was relevant as a collegiate player for a couple months, but now I just judge other people's teams. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
Well, what team did you play for?
Grandview University. I was on their team when we got top 12 last year.
Yeah, so, Lion was on a pretty high-ranking team. Unfortunately, Grandview not active this year, but definitely has experience in the higher echelons of Collegiate Overwatch. And then Drew, welcome to the podcast, first of all. Actually, you know what? Before you say who you are, I do want to get a fit check. You showed me your shirt earlier. You got to show the podcast.
Okay, I can do that. Okay,
Look at that beauty.
I did not see this earlier. Wow.
That is a cat with a cowboy hat riding a shark barfing a rainbow in space, everybody.
Yep.
That's how you know. That's how you know this guy means business. Now that you know he means business, how about you introduce yourself to the stream?
Hello, I'm Drew. I coached Champlain College Blue last semester, and I currently coach the Baja team for Champlain College. They are a very fringe team, maybe top 50 college, and yeah. That's about it.
Well, I want to thank you guys once again for joining us on today's podcast. We've definitely got an interesting podcast ahead of you. A lot of stuff to talk about. Obviously, last time we had the podcast, it was very preseason. There was not a ton to concrete to talk about. But now teams have been playing for about a month, and we've got some results. We've got some solid evidence to potentially back up our claims, though. Some people agree, some people don't. As things are with the OWCRA rankings all the time.
Can't make everyone happy.
We cannot
happens.
possibly make everyone happy. That is very true. But before we get into the rankings, we do need to talk about some of the news that is in the collegiate scene that came out this month. Obviously, there isn't as much news right now because the season is active, but we do have some very interesting stuff going on. For example, starting off today's news segment is a much-deserved promotion from former Illinois State Redbirds coach Wheats has been promoted to the Overwatch League finally after coaching what has been basically the most successful team in all of Collegiate Overwatch for the last year. Finally gets a call up to the Toronto Defiant. I think this guy definitely deserves another chance at the highest level, and being reunited with a lot of his former team in Redbirds that had also been promoted to Overwatch League, I think it's just a perfect fit.
Yeah, well deserved, 100%. I'm super excited to see him back with AT. People who are kind of new to Collegiate are watching right now. American Tornado essentially were Redbirds at a point, and now they're Toronto Defiant. And their players had gone to Overwatch League and were mixed up in different rosters, like Florida Mayhem, San Francisco, LA Glads, a lot of different rosters. But now they're all back together with Wheats, and Wheats was coaching Redbirds last semester, I guess for 2 years now. So it's great to finally see him in Overwatch League. Honestly, 100% well deserved. I'm really happy to see him where he should be.
Yeah, very, very much so. I think that Wheats, again, has just been building that resume for this entire last year. And so I think that it is it's just so good to see that work has finally been rewarded.
I am curious though who's going to be coaching Redbirds now. I don't know
Yeah.
if they have other coaches or anything or people who are helping them out. All I know is Flutie. But I'm very curious if they were going to pick up another coach or something. And I'm wondering if the coaching position, because I think it was full time. I think it was a full time job. I'm not sure though. I could be wrong. Maybe it was a student job. But I know they just did that for Rocket League. So if they are hiring for a full time Overwatch coach, be on the lookout for that because that can be really cool.
Absolutely. Lion, Drew, any thoughts on this particular topic?
No, I don't have anything to add to this. Just
Yeah, same as well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty new to the Path to Pro and collegiate scene, but big congratulations to him for making it to the Overwatch League.
Big congratulations.
Massive congratulations. So, I guess, yeah, I mean, there isn't a ton else to say about that. Just like huge props to Wheats for making it there. So we go ahead and move on to the next topic.
Now, this is something I've been wanting to see.
Yeah, this is really cool. Just a roster announcement for a team that we've definitely been keeping pretty close eye on over the last month or so. University of St. Thomas making their big reintroduction to Collegiate Overwatch did finally, they've been playing with this roster for a little bit, but they did finally re-announce their roster. A lot of familiar names. Of course, they added on Luca at their main tank position over the last little bit. And I know, Luey, you rate Luca quite highly and think that it really does boost St. Thomas into this consistent top 20 spot that they have now.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this guy in Collegiate. He's a talent and he's a personality, which we need in Collegiate. So I'm very excited about this roster, and they finally announced it. The committee was pretty aware of this roster early on because we saw that they had signed up for the Collegiate Championships for the first time. I think this is officially the first time they're competing in it. So I'm super excited to see how this roster does. They've been doing well in the past at very small tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in and out here and there, but now they have hopefully they're going to continue with the Collegiate Championships and whatever else tournaments they're going forward. And I'm very excited to see not only Luca play, but all the rest of the team and showcase their talent and what they got. I think they're gonna be what is it called, like a dark horse in the season. So we'll see.
That's kind of crazy. I remember watching these guys play in the All-Star Brawl by Star Esports back in the day. Literally, obviously not this exact team, but this general core was in those very niche community tier 3 tournaments back in the day. So it's really cool to see them making a step back into the Collegiate Overwatch scene, and they've come out to a pretty solid start.
Yeah, I think something to take note of recently. I mean, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in the rankings, but they actually competed in the World Cup trials, and it was really cool to see how they did there. They did fairly well, so I'm excited to see how they do in the Collegiate Championships. And I don't know if they're competing in anything else. I think maybe NACE. I'm not sure on that.
I don't know. It might just be.
It might just be Collegiate Championships.
It might just be Collegiate Championships for them, which is fair. Don't overload yourself, but it does give us a limited pool of official matches to go off of. So just keeping all that in mind.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see this team go in that same sort of bracket with UCI and Fisher of just under contender bracket. It's a really good roster. They can do well.
100%.
Yeah, I agree.
And with that, we'll go ahead and continue onward to the next news item, which is the Path to Pro schedule that came out a little bit ago. First of all, props to everyone who has been working on this. Just having this announcement out and the fact that everyone knows now the general schedule of Path to Pro for the next year is honestly super cool. It allows all tier 2 teams and tier 3 teams, honestly, because Open Division's in there as well, to kind of plan around the general expectation of when things can be. And then, hey, look, There's us there,
Mhm.
all the way at
Yes.
the bottom. But we're
Yes.
part of it. We made the graphic, everybody.
Yes, we did it. Let's go.
We did
made
it.
Yes. I love this so
break
much,
out the
actually.
confetti.
Because past seasons, like the collegiate championships or homecoming or test, but whatever it was back then, it would always conflict with other stuff going on, like open division or contenders at some points, and that would be so frustrating for a lot of, especially the high level teams who are wanting to compete in these things. So I'm loving the transparency. I'm loving that they put this out, and I want to see more of this. I hope they continue to do this. So props to the contenders team or the Overwatch League team for doing this. I love this so much.
Janghua, you're awesome. I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know if
shout
you seem to have been ever since you joined the contenders team. Good things have been happening. So I don't know. I don't know if this was all you. But either way, keep it up. Big ups to the team. They're definitely doing a lot better when it comes to keeping the community updated. So that's kind of it for like the general news items. Now we got some updates on certain events that are going on in the Collegiate Overwatch scene right now, starting off with the AVGL Intel Inspires Collegiate Overwatch 2 bracket. So this has now... So from my understanding, and I haven't actually been following this event super closely, so I think other people can do a little bit better than me, but there has been a series of regional qualifiers that has been happening throughout the last couple of months, so that is now culminated into this just massive 64-team bracket that is going to be played out probably over the course of the next month or so. Obviously, not very many of these games have played it. I think round 1 at least is this weekend.
Yes, I think some of the matches are today. I know my team is playing today in like an hour or so. So
yeah, absolutely. So I think there are a couple games that have already been up. There are a couple forfeits, but a couple games have already been played early. This game right here is big right now, and we're gonna get into this a little bit later. But ASU Maroon 3-1 in Converse in the start, like that sent shockwaves in the OWCRA chats when it happened. I think a lot of people started taking Arizona State a lot more seriously after that's like a statement win that you need to get into the top 20. Is taking out a team that honestly earlier on in this month people were thinking might be top 5. But you got Wichita State moving on, Miami, Ohio beating UNLV. So as the tournament goes on, we're going to get more and more like big time matchups with big players, but I'm curious if there's any like matchups here in round 1 that you're interested in seeing.
As far as round 1, yeah, the only one I'd see there is Illini Orange versus Toronto. That's like 2 bubble teams, yeah.
I think that's one of my biggest ones because Toronto's like right on the cusp. They've been doing really well the past couple weeks. And they're looking like they might make a splash into the rankings soon. And this might be a good proving ground for them, or UIUC, because they're also pretty close. So if they're able to win this match and possibly even take a map or 2 off UCSD, that could prove them as a pretty solid team over the course of the semester.
Yeah. This would be really great for either team, honestly. I mean, UIUC has kind of been hovering in like the 21 to 30-ish range. And then, like you said, University of Toronto have also been a team on the rise over the last couple weeks. Got a couple of pretty impressive wins in ABC last week. Unfortunately, just didn't make the rankings this time around, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And then, of course, the winner of this likely taking on San Diego, our current number 12 team, I believe, is going to be quite interesting. I think it's going to be the toughest challenge for whoever ends up facing them so far in the season.
I think another match to note is number 14. CIU
versus 14. Oh, there you go. CIU versus
CIU Rams versus Hawaii, I think. Or is that Houston? Is that Hawaii?
That is,
I actually don't know.
I don't know.
I think
that might even be
hit. Load more. There's simply so many. Esports.
Okay, I cannot tell you.
This is Hawaii, not not Houston. This is Hawaii.
Gotcha. Okay, that is. I think that's another match to take note of because I think some of the committee members had we're high on UH right now. I think they're doing fairly well, and I think I saw that on Twitter. I'm not sure, but that's another interesting match to see. I know that the CIU Rams did fairly well in CECC last semester.
Yeah.
And my team actually got the chance to face them, and they were okay. So I'm interested to see how the outcome of that match.
I will say, I think CIU, they got off hot when people didn't really know who they were, and then they were able to just kind of, I mean, fair ups to the team for playing to their strengths, but they were able to take some teams off guard with their fair comps with Zest. Now that teams kind of know what to expect from them, they have proven themselves to be a little bit easier to defeat. Like, I'm a little bit biased here because I am a Cincinnati alumni, but Cincinnati did beat CIU earlier this month in the Kentucky land qualifiers. So I think their star is starting to cool a little bit until they can kind of prove that outside of the FAR comps they can play at that same level,
Yeah, last year CECC, they took down like 2 really solid teams, and everyone's just like, oh, maybe we should notice them. And then I've heard like literally nothing about them since. So
Yeah, they lost a couple matches that they weren't projected to lose because I think we ranked them. Did they make the list once?
I don't think
No,
so.
no, not
No,
CIU.
they were close.
I think they were
but-
close. I don't think they made the list before.
Okay. They
I
were
might
close
be
to making the
wrong.
list, and then they lost to some teams that weren't even getting any points at all. So I think that kind of threw a lot of people off from them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think
would agree.
This tournament is
This
honestly
tournament
really
is
exciting.
stacked, though. You got
There's-
UCI
yeah.
in here. You got
You got Redbirds and
Northeastern's in
Northwood.
there. Northwood's in there. CIU, as we mentioned. Fisher, UTD. I know ISU is in here. There's Redbird Esports. Like
Got the
when it gets
Bobcats.
down to it, we're going to get some crazy high level competitions when we get down even into like the top 8 semifinals, finals. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on this competition as it moves forward in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
I'm honestly just very interested in round 2 and 3 as well because there's going to be some very good matchups in there.
There's a lot of prize money in this, and I think
Mhm.
also the top 2 teams make it to LAN, I believe.
Oh,
So-
so wait, is it a LAN event, but like it's only for the
two.
finals?
I think
Yes.
I could be wrong, but I think it's like they're hosting multiple game titles. Maybe
Yes.
I'm wrong, but I know that there's only the top 2 teams make it to LAN.
They're hosting, I forget the exact games, but they're hosting like 3 different games for both high school and collegiate.
Right.
So they're hosting probably like 6 or 8 matches
Mhm.
when you actually get to the LAN.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's definitely gonna be something to keep an eye on. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about next month because I think by the time next month's podcast comes around, this is going to be either over or close to over. So that'll be definitely good to talk about. But let's talk real quick about something that is going on this weekend. So be sure to keep an eye out for the CECC list because we've got ourselves a West qualifier LAN going on this weekend at Boise State. This is the CECC West regional event. The winner of this event will then move on to the national event in, I believe, Arlington this May. So a lot on the line here, and honestly, a pretty solid roster here. UCSD won it last time around, but this time Boise State is also competing. Utah is here. Utah was ranked number 20, so I think we've got 6, 12, and 20. And then also some teams that we are keeping an eye on, like Hawaii and UCLA, who could come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm excited to see UCLA play because they're another team that I've been thinking has been like a bubble around 20 to 25 team. And I'm excited to see them play maybe if they play Utah or another one of the top teams. I want to see what goes on there.
Last the California LAN back in like December, I think UCLA actually did beat UCSD. UCSD has kind of been all over the place. So this is going to be a very, very interesting LAN for people who don't know. This is going to be super cool to see. And I'm actually really, really excited and hyped for University of Hawaii. Maybe they're not like exactly a top 20 team, but for them to travel from all the way to Hawaii to the mainland is super, super cool that they have that opportunity and they're able to compete. So
that is
I'm super
actually
excited about all these teams.
that's a super good point. Like, I don't know if I've ever really seen. You don't really see much from Hawaii because being able to participate in these events just means you are always taking such a big difference in time zone that it's just going to be so difficult to make it work. So excuse me.
100%.
The fact that Hawaii is here is honestly really cool. We also had some really cool stuff coming out from the various teams, just picturing themselves going over to Boise State. It's always fun when there's a LAN. I do want to give a quick shout out to UCSD, who made a pretty fun video, put it on their Twitter account. We do want to give them a quick shout out because UCSD has been a good friend. They've been engaged with us.
For the CECC
Yes, they actually have
Boise
2
State
teams going,
University.
right? So
they do have
it's their
Gold and
Navy
Navy.
team.
Congrats.
Yeah, Gold and
How many
Navy.
people do you think would be
So
going?
it's super, super
So
exciting to
there's
see.
me
And
the
I'm
Gold
super,
team.
super excited
Got
to
it.
see their
So-
main
and 16
team,
more people.
or maybe even their second team get a rematch versus Boise. So it'll be super, super fun to watch.
They just teleported into
Yeah,
the
we can
room.
do that.
Yes.
What a
Love
view!
this
What
video.
a,
Still on for Among Us tonight?
Hey, UCSD, if you're watching, you can invite me to Among Us night. I'd be down.
This is the content we need in Collegiate, by the way. For those teams that are watching right now, like
if you couldn't
UCSD.
tell, I am a bit of a fan. So
When is OWCRA committee Among Us night?
we could do that right now. Screw the podcast.
Okay.
Among Us right now.
All right, I have a bit of a take on this, and I hope I don't end up on a UCSD clip here, but last time they were at LAN, they dropped 2 games to UCLA, so I'd really be surprised to see anyone but Boise win this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think actually they lost to UCLA online qualifiers or something, or online something. And
They
then
lost to
another
UCLA
game.
in the UCEI Invitational at the very start of the semester.
One person, one time in LAN, and then one time online. Sure. So, yeah, I'm interested to see because UCSD has just kind of been like all over the place. Like we know they have the potential of taking down a top 10, top 8 team, but sometimes they lost to UCLA, who's not even currently ranked right now. So, big question mark there.
They're just such a wild card team. It's just gonna depend on who kind of shows up. And honestly, the fact that Boise State is kind of on their home field advantage is, I think, only going to help them. They're familiar with the environment. They don't have to travel. They're playing on their own setups for the most part. So I think there's a lot of things that are kind of pointing towards Boise State qualifying for the national event. I think they're the favorites, but I think UCSD are going to be the main competitors there. And again, I do think, honestly, any of those 6, UNLV, Hawaii, UCLA, Utah, could definitely make some noise.
100%. Somebody in chat, I think they're from UCSD, said they actually 3-0'd UCLA during CECC qualifiers. So, and
This is true.
Also another thing which the committee knows about is that UCSD beat Boise 3-1 in the CECC qualifiers, or 3-2, 3-1. I don't know.
I think it's 3-1.
Oh, I didn't. I wasn't looking at chat. I'm in Among Us night. Let's go. It's time.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how UCSD does. Like, I honestly want to see them succeed. They've been doing very, very, very well.
Yeah.
But Boise's really, really good. So we'll
from
see
a
how they do
selfish
against
note,
them too.
UCSD, you guys have actually been really engaged with OWCRA. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the engagement. It's fun. Yes, you did 3-1 Boise in CECC quals. I do think that Boise was probably not taking that game super, super seriously. At the end of the day, there wasn't much. I don't think there was much on the line in that. Like, it was maybe like who picks first for groups, and that was really it. I was watching that match, and I'm pretty sure I saw some people on off rolls, and who knows. I think on LAN in Boise State with a ticket to the national LAN on the line, I think is going to be a much different environment. So,
and a real true indicator, I would say, honestly.
Absolutely.
My money would be on Boise. My money would be on Boise, but I hope someone proves me wrong because that'd be fun to see.
Yeah,
don't sleep on Utah. Utah's cool too. UCSD. I want to see Hawaii do well. Like all these teams, I'm rooting for all these teams. Honestly, like I don't care who wins. Honestly.
So these guys, there will be a few games that are going to be streamed on the Esports U Twitch over the course of the weekend. Obviously, it's not just Overwatch being played. They've also got Valorant, Rocket League, and I think Smash Bros. Being played as well. So it's going to be all weekend long. CECC, I've worked with them several times in the past. They're really great. They are doing a lot of good work for the collegiate scene. So feel free to tune in and support the event. And speaking of events, we got... as we kind of wrap up the updates, we're going to take a look at the two main leagues that are going on right now other than like the ABC League. We're going to give you a little update on what's going on in the NACE Star League and what's going on in the NACE Star League and NECC right now, as both leagues are pretty decently far into their regular seasons. We're going to go ahead and start with NACE here, because as we are currently in the second, okay, the screen is a little bad for this, but as we are kind of a little bit into the regular season round robins, these were kind of set up in a way where you kind of knew which teams going in were going to be doing the best. And there haven't been very many surprises. I think one of the only real surprises is the fact that UTD ended up dropping, I believe, or maybe it's like a B. Luey, did you just drop from NACE, or is this like a B team or something?
Right. No, we did drop out of it. We didn't think it was worth the time. And I think I spoke about it last podcast, but it's just like, we didn't really think it was worth the time. And I don't know if anybody from NACE Star League is watching this, but it's just not worth our time to spend like our Mondays and Tuesdays fighting teams that are most often than not are just not at our level, when we can just have scrim time. So that's the reason why we dropped out.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. I will say, I do want to give a quick shout out to Blinn. I know Kyle has been quite upset in all of our rankings that Blinn has not been mentioned. I do want to give a quick shout out to them because they are currently top of their group. I think with UTD dropping out of their group, that does clear things up a little bit, but they did also 3-0 RIT, which I think is like one of the big... yeah,
that's a pretty impressive win.
It's a pretty impressive win. RIT was ranked at some point last semester after doing...
Yeah, they got on one time.
They're still a pretty fringe team, probably, in my opinion, around like the 30 range. Still pretty good, but definitely not looking to get ranked in the near future, from what it looks like.
Yeah, so I think Blinn, Blinn, and also I think Maryville is kind of a victim to this too, because you're playing in NACE instead of NECC. You naturally are going to have a weaker strength of schedule at this point in the season, so it makes it a lot more difficult to kind of judge your relative strength. But quick shout out to all the teams topping their divisions. You got Blinn are technically on top. They haven't lost yet. In East 1, East 2 is St. Clair. East 3 is that's Northwood.
Yeah, that's Northwood.
East 4, Maryville. East 5, Harrisburg. East 6, Brighton Stratton. And then West Central is technically Boise State and Edgewood. They're both tied, but I think Boise State wins that head-to-head pretty handedly.
For sure.
So again, all of the usual suspects you would think would be topping these are generally doing so.
Yeah, I will give a little shout out to. I'll give a little shout out to Edgewood because they've been putting up some good results lately.
Yeah.
Against solid teams, nobody that highly ranked, but they've been doing pretty solid. It looks like they beat Mizzou, which is a solid team as well.
Their matchup against Mizzou last week was streamed, and I was actually pretty impressed by them. I think I was favoring Mizzou going into that match, and they did a really good job.
Yeah, I think last semester Edgewood was like a diamond team, but I remember Champlain played them, and they felt much stronger than most of the other teams we played. We did beat them, but I don't know if we'd beat them this semester.
So this time next month, we're probably going to be into playoff season, and then we're going to have a lot more interesting stuff to talk about when it comes to NACE. But for now, that's kind of all we got. Let's move on over to NECC here. We're going to be focusing in on the Legends divisions because that's where we are focusing on the most. That's where most of our, that's where all of our ranked teams and teams we're considering for ranked are being put in right now. Throughout both Legends divisions, you've got Northwood, UTD, and Redbirds that are still undefeated at this point in the season. Fisher College is down, but their only loss was, I think, to Northwood, so they're still doing quite well. And then I want to do point of quick spotlight. We have a team on both sides that I think has been beating some teams we have not been expecting, and because of that, they've kind of vaulted themselves into the fringe conversation. And that's Houston in the West and Auburn in the East have both been getting some praise.
Yeah, I think Auburn. Who did they beat? They beat Ohio, I think.
Brian and Stratton.
They beat
Legends.
BSC.
Or Brian and Stratton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
beat
that's who
Bryant
they
and Stratton week 1. They
Mhm.
they 3-0'd Maryland week 2, which I think Maryland is falling out of the conversation a little bit, but I do think they're not a team to sleep on. And then they had a bye, and then they lost to Ohio State last week.
Oh, they lost to Ohio. Okay, so they beat Bobcats early this month.
Yes. And to
Got
be
it.
fair, we do have Enjoyable, who is the director of Bryant and Stratton in OWCRA now, so we get a little bit more information. Bryant and Stratton was having a little bit of roster shuffle issues early on in the semester, but according to Enjoyable, they've sort of figured it out now, and I think Bryant and Stratton did score a pretty, they took a map off of Redbirds, which I don't know how important that is. It was the first map. I don't know. I can't tell you how seriously it was taking it. I will say Redbirds does generally take their matches pretty seriously. So,
Yeah.
So taking a map, I think, is a little more impressive than taking a map off of, like, Northwood.
Yeah, I agree.
And then there was something else that they did recently that was impressive. But, oh yeah, they did beat Ohio State Scarlet, too.
Another team I'll give a little shout out to is Oregon. They've been doing pretty well in the NECC, and I think they put up some decent results against other teams elsewhere. Can't remember for sure, but they've been doing well in the NECC 3-1 at the moment, which I didn't really expect from them, at least.
So their 3 wins are against Fresno State, Oklahoma, and Mizzo, which, I mean, those are definitely good wins. I think they might be... I mean, you've got, other than GCU, you've got 3 of the 4 bottom teams in the division. So, we'll definitely see. I think the second half of the season is going to be very telling for teams like Houston and Oregon. Because I think we will see if they're actually, like, meant to be in the top 20 conversation, or if they just had a light early start to the schedule,
I do want to see Oregon versus Houston. Because it looks like they're at a very similar spot at the moment, and seeing them go against each other might.
Look, that is on the 16th, and it's scheduled to be streamed.
Oh, huge!
Look at that.
That is wonderful.
Apparently, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Anything else on the state of NECC right now before we move on?
I think so. I think I covered everything.
Yeah, I will mention. I'll give a quick shout out to the director of Co College. Recently, he hosted a tournament for teams outside of the Legends division, which we had a couple teams compete in, and was a lot of fun. And I'll give a little shout out to him for hosting that all on his own and providing a little tournament for some of the teams that might not really have much of a chance outside of that. But
absolutely. Give me just a moment here. All right. And with that means it is now time to get into the meat and potatoes of the podcast today. That is, of course, the rankings proper, the rankings that released yesterday. And let's talk a little bit about what happened and how we think things went. I think there are parts of it that everyone doesn't quite agree with. I know there are parts of it that I don't quite agree with personally, but this is what the OWCRA collective has landed on. So let's take a quick look at where we are right now. If you have not seen it yet, if you don't know what OWCRA is, by the way, this is the main thing what we do. We have 21 people, 20 people this time around. Someone wasn't able to get their rankings in. that do their own personal top 20 rankings every month, and they get points based off of that. And because from that, we get our top 20 teams, and we post it every month. So, our top 5 is going to be ISU, Northwood, Maryville, just like last time. I think our first change is UC Irvine jumping Fisher for the number 4 spot. Boise, UTD, Harrisburg, Rutgers entering the top 10 for the first time. Converse rounds out the top 10. And then in the second half, we have St. Clair, UC San Diego, and St. Thomas. By the way, if you notice, quick little typo there. The points for UCSD and St. Thomas were swapped, so they are where they're supposed to be. Ohio State at 14, Brighton Stratton 15, Arizona State, our one newcomer, at 16. Bellevue, Ball State, Fisher, Navy, and Utah round out the top 20. This got people talking, and that's the point of the rankings, but there's definitely a lot of people who are not quite happy with these ones, and I think that makes these all the more interesting to talk about.
We wouldn't have anything to talk about if it was perfect.
Exactly.
For sure. I think for me at least, like the first thing I noticed and I was confused about, I mean, I was just confused on why Ohio State was still in. Like, I don't think I had them in my rankings at all. But they lost to, I think, who'd they lose to? They lost. We just talked about it. Like, they lost to. It wasn't mentioned, but they lost to. I don't remember what team, but they lost to a team in collegiate championship.
Was it
So it just wasn't word. Yeah, I think it was Bethel.
It was Bethel.
So I don't even know who that team is.
Was it
maybe
championships, or was it I think
No,
it was
it was
something
like-
else. I think it was CECC. I think it was the CECC
Yeah, it was-
regional qualifier was when that happened.
Yeah, it was a qualifier of some sort.
Okay, well then maybe they didn't take it seriously or something, but I have no knowledge on that. But the fact that they lost to that, I was like, ooh, that's a little interesting. But then they also took another loss to, like, I think Bobcats and I want to say another team, but I don't remember which one. And I think they've lost like Converse as well this season in NECC activation. So I don't know. I haven't seen any really notable wins from them, so I was a bit of a question mark for me personally.
Yeah, a little context on Bethel. They're a team that's been pretty consistently in the second highest division of the NECC. So they've been in champions a lot of the time, usually putting up very good results in champions, but I would if they went to Legends, they would get destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in chat or Pioneer in chat said that they're 4.1 at best.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure why they lost, and they shouldn't have lost, but they did, and that's why I was a little confused on why they're still in the ranking personally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. Well, I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say I know I ranked them a bit lower. I kept them in my rankings. I think I had them around 17th, because they were still beating some teams. Yes, they did lose to Bethel, but again, I don't know how much that really had, how much weight that really had, and I think that's their only like serious loss. But I definitely didn't put them over Brighton and Stratton. But yeah.
Yeah, I actually have it written down that they beat Bobcats end of January. Next time they faced Bobcats, they lost. They lost to Bethel. They beat Belen at the Kentucky land qualifiers,
Yeah,
and then they lost.
Kentucky.
And then they actually lost to Ball State.
Mhm.
So Ball
Yes.
State's number 18 and Ohio State's number 14. So
I will
bit of
say
a
I
question
think that game happened right after the rankings closed, specifically the Ball State Ohio State one. I think the rankings
yes, it did.
closed on Tuesday, and that game happened on Wednesday, so that's always going to happen. Just a little bit outdated. I think if we had known that and that game had happened a day before, I think Ball State would have been a bit higher, Ohio State would have been a bit lower.
Yeah,
I do think that's
I
a
had
really
Ball
nice
State below Ohio.
proving grounds game for Ball State, and especially this is something we should have mentioned, actually. The University of Kentucky land qualifier Swiss is actually a really solid competition going on right now. There's something like 5 ranked teams in there right now. Maryville is in there, which is crazy. Like, Maryville barely competes in anything ever other than the main ABC, so the fact that they decided to come out for this is actually huge. You've got, let me think here, Ball State's in there, Ohio State's in there. You got like a bunch of Kentucky teams which are always there. There's like other teams that I need to.
I think Fisher's too.
Fisher is in there, but it's like a 1 second. It's like a Fisher's in there, but it's like not their main team. It's like a
Oh,
C
okay.
team for Fisher.
Oh, is it their JV team?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Oh,
team's
Auburn was in
around.
there, but they dropped. That's what
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking of. Berlin is in there. Miami, Ohio is in there. CIU, Converse, Kennesaw. Kennesaw, we haven't really thought about as a team for a while, but I think they're starting to creep back into the conversation. Northeastern is in there. A lot of teams that are either ranked or are kind of on the fringe right now are in there, and it could be a really cool LAN opportunity to really prove yourselves.
Yeah, definitely more stacked than last year. I think last year Converse won. My team was actually going to go to that. Yeah, that was actually fun to see. It was like one of the first lands coming out of COVID. So I'm glad to see that they brought it back, and it's cool to see how the competition is this year. I am very surprised that Maryville is competing as well. Just as you said, I've only seen them really do collegiate championships, but this semester they're doing that. They're doing NACE, and now they're doing collegiate championships. I don't know what else, and I guess like the World Cup trials and all this other stuff. So I'm glad to see Maryville competing in a lot more things, though I still haven't seen any like huge matches from them, to be honest. But
Nah,
it's cool
not
to see
yet.
that they're competing.
So
But I
that
think that
wasn't
was
in the news section. It probably should have been, but they have been. There's been a lot. Here's a quick little. This is where the standings haven't been updated from the last week. I think it gets updated every Monday. But you know, you've got some really nice games being played from all sides. This is just from the event Discord server. This shows all of the matches and where all the standings are at. The top 16 at the end of 8 Swiss rounds are going to qualify for the main event in April, I want to say. Yeah, it'll be in April.
That's awesome. Shout out to Kentucky Esports for that. Honestly, that's super cool that they're putting this on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're doing quite well, and it's kind of giving me vibes of the It's giving me vibes of the HUE fests that go on in the fall semesters, but it's like, it feels, I don't know how to say it. It feels a lot less like produced, if that makes sense. Like, it feels a lot more like a grassroots event. And Harrisburg is like a really high production value kind of event. And you know, last year there were some complaints because of that, and I think UKY is coming in and doing this event based off of stuff that has worked in the past, and I think they're doing a really good job with it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I was at Q and Kentucky, and Kentucky was a lot more fun. Like it was just so more like, I think user friendly is like a good way to describe it. Like it was just so much more well run.
Shout out. I was there as a caster last year, and I believe the plan right now is at least for me to be there again next year. So, or the next month, you know. So, you know, if Maryville, you guys end up going there, you guys can beat me up for putting you third. So look forward to that.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's another conversation, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we get to Maryville, I did want to talk about Rutgers.
Sure.
They've been putting up some good results. I think they beat UTD. What was it, like a week or two ago?
Yep.
And they definitely, in my opinion, they deserve this spot in the top 10. I actually had them rated higher. I think I had them 7th or 8th. And I put UTD and Harrisburg down a bit. But I definitely think they deserve this. They've been putting up much better results than last semester. And even last semester, they were putting up great results too. So this spot is well deserved.
Cracking this top 8, I will say, cracking this top 8 is just going to be tough in general. Because from Illinois State down to Harrisburg, these are the teams that, like, when you think of Collegiate Overwatch, you think of these 8 teams. Whether it's from the social media content they put out, to the events that they run, or just how stacked their teams are in general, these are the teams that you think of. And because of that, I think that's why we see these teams placing in the top 8 so often. But Rutgers is very close. They were just 9 points off from jumping Harrisburg into the top 8. We're very curious to see if after a month there's some changes there from Rutgers or maybe another one of our fast rising teams like ASU.
Yeah, I've been pretty low on Harrisburg recently as well. I don't think they put any impressive results up recently, and at the end of last semester, they did lose, I think, to, was it UCD or
UC
UCSD?
San Diego, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's like the last important match I feel like I've seen from them. So I've been pretty low on them recently. I think I had them at like 11th, but
Yeah, and they also lost Tap, so that was just a big
mhm.
unfortunate thing that happened to them.
Tap also went to Rutgers, by the way. And
Oh, okay.
while Rutgers is, I'm kind of surprised that Rutgers hasn't been like publicizing this very much. Maybe it's just because Tap is technically on like a sub kind of situation for them. But Tap did play for Rutgers in last week's ABC matches.
Oh, really?
So yes, they played against Arizona State, and I watched their stream, and Tap was playing for Rutgers.
Really interesting. I actually, for my rankings, I had Rutgers above us after our loss.
Yeah.
I think the first weekend of collegiate championships, my team lost to Rutgers. And I think they did a really good job, and I put them at number 7 above us.
Mhm.
But I'm excited. Like they've done really well last semester. They beat Harrisburg out of the blue, but then they lost to UCSD, I think, last semester randomly. So that was a bit unfortunate. But now they're like back at it, and they have a really like each of their players is really good individually, and they have really good team play overall, and they're really good at ball comps. So I'm happy to see them succeeding this semester, and I had them number 7. But I'm not completely upset that they're number 9. They should be at least top 10. So it's good to see them there finally.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we talk about Maryville, everybody?
All
You
right.
wanna talk a little bit about the way that the Maryville has responded to this?
So can I go first on this one here?
Sure. And I'm gonna put a quick ice tweet on the screen while you do that.
So our first rankings came out. They were 3rd, right? And for the most part, they seemed like, I don't want to say okay, but like no one was like outraged on Twitter that they were ranked 3. And over the course of a month, their best win in collegiate was against St. Thomas. And now all of a sudden they're upset that they're number 3. So I don't really understand like is what changed in their eyes that now they deserve to be number 1, but
Yeah, I will say
yeah.
I remember seeing a nice tweet last month as well about them being put 3rd. I think it was something like having 4 or so Overwatch League players doesn't make you 3rd, or doesn't make you 1st. But yeah, I think I agree with their placing, honestly. I think I had them 3rd on my rankings. They just haven't put up like they haven't played any teams that make me want to place them higher.
Yeah.
I do agree they definitely have potential to go higher. I think if they play Northwood and
they could
Illinois
absolutely
State,
be number 1.
yes, I think
Yeah.
they absolutely could be number 1. We just haven't seen anything, but we have seen a lot from Northwood and Illinois State.
I think this
So
is
that's
just
kind of why I've been
I think
ranking
this
them
is
3rd.
just unfortunately the Nace nerf in this
Yeah.
particular case. Illinois State and Northwood technically is doing both, but Illinois State and Northwood participating in NECC means that they are playing higher levels of competition more often, and I think Maryville is starting to figure that out as well. There is simply, yeah, like I said, there's just nothing that has happened in the last month. I think the main argument that Maryville has right now to be number 1 is, look at our roster, we're so stacked, how are we not number 1? And the thing is that, like, doing these rankings, I think OWCRA's opportunity as a collective to, like, judge Maryville purely off of the power of the roster was last month's preseason rankings. And we decided to place Illinois State and Northwood over them because they are similar, well, they are also very, very stacked rosters, and they have also been together for longer than Maryville has. So I think that there are very valid reasons to put ISU and Northwood above them, and in the last month, all 3 of them have basically just been putting away the teams that they should be putting away. There has not been any official evidence to prove otherwise for any of these squads to change their positions, and that's why they haven't changed. For Maryville to hit number 1, they have to play Northwood or Illinois State and beat them. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
They have to play them in an official match and beat them. And I think we're probably going to get that this upcoming month in the ABC Swiss.
Yeah.
I know we're only
My
basing this off collegiate matches, but I also took note of the World Cup trials. And I know Maryville, I mean, I don't know if they're in chat, but I know that they had like their DPS player Cyrus on tank and that they didn't have like their starting roster because Falls was playing in Canadian trials and Mikey, I'm not sure where he was, but I honestly took note of that because Illinois State, Redbirds, almost all their whole roster played, aside from like I think one of their DPS players, and then old Northwood played against them
Hmm.
in the finals of World Cup. So Maryville actually lost early on to UST. So I was like that was a big question mark for me. I was like, why did they lose? And then I heard that they had Cyrus on tank, and I was like, still, regardless, I feel like even with each of the rest of the roles, like they should be able to at least take them. I feel like they like with the rest of the roles, like they literally have Tree, they have King, they have all these like Overwatch League pro level players, and they still lost to UCST. So I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh on them. Like I know tank is a really important role in the game, and maybe Cyrus just can't play tank at all. But like regardless, I feel like they should have taken that win, and they lost to UST randomly in
Hmm.
the World Cup trials. So, and yeah, and then that's also something I took note of in my rankings was the Northwood versus Illinois State. I know Old Northwood was playing. I know they had Landon and Lep, but it was I think the rest of their team, regardless, did well overall, and it showed weakness in Illinois State. Illinois State actually lost and got beat 3-2. And I feel like I honestly don't. I feel like I know Landon and Lep are both very very good at our level, but I feel like CJ and his name is like in my
Vega.
mind
Vega.
Vega. Yeah, I feel like maybe this is a hot take, but I feel like they're not the skill gap between those two support lines isn't complete like huge. It's not like I know I think Landon and Lep are a little bit better, but I don't think it's like massive. I don't think it's like hugely different. So seeing that Old Northwood was able to take down ISU in the finals,
Yeah.
it made me put Northwood number
Like,
one. I'm not mad at the number two. I think it makes sense given like the history of collegiate and how and their rosters and stuff. But that's where I put Northwood. Not mad about ISU being number one though. I think it makes sense. But
I
as for
simply can't
Maryville,
agree with using the Overwatch World Cup stuff because it's just not the collegiate
Hmm.
rosters. That's just what it
Yeah.
comes down to. The
that's
rosters
fair.
are pretty radically different, and when you put new people into the environment, that's going to change up the way that team comms work. And it's just I just don't think it is a super valid way to measure how they would perform specifically in a collegiate environment, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think
That's fair.
Maryville also only had like two of their starting roster players actually playing on that team, maybe three, because I know Iced was on DPS instead of Tree because Tree's 15, right?
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
and then they had a couple other people coming in too.
Okay.
So I think using that for Maryville, yes, it influenced it a little bit. I think
Mhm.
I was considering moving them up before then, and then I was like, I'll just leave them where they are for this ranking. But
Yeah. That was just like you said, it was like a minor thing to consider. The main thing, as y'all just said, was that we haven't seen anything from them in collegiate, like
mhm,
no notable matches.
yeah,
So we have no reason to put them up. I mean, maybe we've heard rumors about them doing well, but like it's just like what are we supposed to base off
Mhm.
of a few matches in NACE or like they beat UST, that is to be expected in the collegiate championship. But nothing so notable to where we should put them above Northwood or Illinois State at the moment, at least. But maybe
yeah,
prove us wrong.
Let's
yeah,
Like they have a
let's
really good
take a
roster.
second here actually because we got a really cool thing in chat here. Neb in chat has put in his personal ranking at least for the top 8. It's Maryville 1, ISU 2, Northwood 3, Fisher 4. Neb is on Fisher by the way. UCI 5, Boise 6, and then UTD and UST at 7 and 8 interchangeable. What do you guys think about that particular ranking? I think that could very easily be what it looks like this time next month after these teams have played each other in officials more. Again, my main argument here is that Maryville, ISU, Northwood, Fisher, UCI, like these teams have not really played each other this season yet, so we don't have very
yeah,
much head-to-head data. So a lot of the kind of stuff that's coming off of them right now is A, how good you feel about their roster, B, scrimbucks, and C, the vibe. So I'm waiting until we see head-to-heads before things change radically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
I
thoughts
oh,
my
yeah.
thoughts on who should go number one is Illinois State, at least in collegiate, they dominated all of last semester, and they haven't dropped a match this semester. So until I see them lose, I can't put them anywhere but number one.
I did ISU lose to Northwood and NECC activation? I forget.
I
No,
think
I
that
think
might
Or
they're
was
have
it
No,
or
been.
was it
separate.
Northwood? I know it was a 2-1 match. I don't remember who won.
yeah, they beat Northwood in activation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think.
I think Neb's rankings are pretty good. I could see Maryville being number one. I don't think interchanging them like ISU, Northwood, and Marywood, or Maryville, not Marywood. I think interchanging them.
Marywood is a team, by the way.
Yes, they
That's a
are.
team.
Sorry, my team played them recently, so I got them mixed up. But yeah. So I think those three teams you could interchange anyway right now, and honestly, I would be fine with the rankings because they just haven't played each other this semester. Um, I also did rank Fisher above UCI. Again, I think those two teams could go 50-50.
Oh, for sure.
We haven't seen them play this semester, and I think they only played once last semester.
This is
Can't
tough.
remember who won, but
UCI is another one of those teams that just doesn't play in a ton of things. They
yeah,
play in ABC, and they always do well in that. And they are playing in AVGL, which is cool, which
Mhm.
I think they're doing mostly because there's a prize pool involved in that. But they're
Yeah.
not in NECC, they're not in NACE, they're not doing any weekly stuff other than the ABC. So it's tough. It's tough to rank them. Has Fisher and UCI, like, when's the last time they've actually played each other? Maybe in like
I
some
think
sort
They
of
did once
ABC
last
playoffs.
semester, I
Yeah,
think.
playoffs of collegiate
Yeah.
Yeah.
homecoming last semester. And I think Fisher won that actually. I could be wrong
Yeah.
though.
I was just going off what I had last semester because again, I just haven't seen them play,
Mhm.
and I put Fisher above UCI.
Yeah.
But and then the last thing I have to say about his rankings, the UTD and UST. I think UST has a pretty good shot of making it up there in the near future. I think UTD, unfortunately, Louis, I've been ranking them a bit lower. I'd probably put Rutgers in their place at the moment, but I could definitely see them making a swing back in the future.
That's completely fair.
I gotta say I'm with Drew on this one. I've personally been I think UTD was like just outside of the top 10 for me this particular time around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mostly because I think you know, they've taken a couple of losses in ABC and they could pretty easily bounce back. I know you guys can.
Mhm.
You're obviously going to be biased towards your own team and rightfully so. I
Yep.
just think that UTD over the course of both last semester and this semester has been taking just several losses that they really shouldn't be, and I can't
Mhm.
place them any higher until I get proof that they can like consistently. Because I know at their peak they can absolutely hang with the teams in the top 5, top 6, but I need to see proof that they can do that consistently.
That's completely
Yeah, I
fair.
agree.
I was a little surprised, honestly, to see us still number 7. And I know people are gonna be upset about that, but I didn't even put my team number 7. I put Rutgers above us. So completely fair points, honestly, like
Mhm.
valid. As for for my response to what Neb said, like Maryville number 1, ISU number 2, Northwood number 3. Honestly, like to me, it doesn't really matter. Like you can really rank them wherever. Like all I know is that these are the top 3 teams, no matter what. Like they're all super super good. One of these teams are gonna be the champions, like 100%, no doubt in my mind. So to me right now, like the top 3 rankings don't really matter. Like any of those 3 teams could be the champions for sure. Um, and I guess for the rest, Fisher number 4, UCI number 5. Yeah, I agree. Like 50-50. Like I think maybe Fisher has an upper hand right now because Hog is completely trash. And who's the other tank player? Light. I don't know what Light plays at a very high level. Maybe he plays like Doomfist. Like Doomfist is pretty decent right now, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe they pull Doomfist out and are able to stomp teams with it. But it would. I'm not upset that UCI is number 4. I'm not upset that number 5. Like I think it can go either way. Really, I don't really know yet, to be honest. And as for Boise being number 6, I think that makes sense. Boise can probably be higher. I think those 3 teams it just goes either way, like 50-50. UCI, Fisher, and Boise. Like it could go either way for any of those teams.
Yeah.
And then number 7 and 8, UTD, UCSD. Yeah, I know my team better than anybody else. Like I know that we can take on any of these teams. I've said it before. So right now we are lacking the consistency that I want, but will make a comeback, like y'all said. But I think Rutgers should be up there, number 8. I think I put them number 7, so I think they should rightfully be up there. And I don't think Harrisburg should be number 8. I really don't. Like they lost Tap. I think they've swapped their roles up a little bit, and I just haven't seen anything good from them recently. So
I
don't
think
think
that's
they should
also
be number 8.
the Nace nerf though. We haven't really seen Harrisburg play anyone super good this semester yet. At least I don't think so. And so because of that, we don't have much empirical, I don't know, head-to-head evidence between them and most other ranked teams. I think over the next month, we're going to get a lot of really good information on where Harrisburg actually stands.
Yeah. I think the only one of these teams, in my opinion, that seems like exactly in the right spot is Boise. Because I see them beating most of the teams below them, and I don't see them beating any of the teams above them. I feel like they're in a very solid spot where they're kind of that dividing team for me at the moment. I will say they did lose to UCSD, which showed a little bit of weakness.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see, but for me, they're solidly like the number 6 spot.
I see.
You hear that, guys? We got one. We got one right. Let's go.
I forgot to mention, but I actually put Fisher below UCI at the moment, at least, because they lost to Converse in NECC activation.
Oh, interesting.
I forgot about that.
I didn't know that Harrisburg isn't letting their players play Path to Pro. That's actually interesting. That's definitely a reason to be unhappy. They want them to focus fully on ABC, but I think, with the level of player that Harrisburg has, they definitely feel like most ABC matches are just going to be stomps. So I can understand that. That's tough. That's tough. And that's a good thing to point out, Point.
I unfortunately see Harrisburg just going downhill going forward because they lost their director and then they just lost their head coach, Shake.
This is true. That should have been that should have been a news item.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. But them
losing
their head coach.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
Them losing their head coach, I'm coaching my team. I know that there's only so much you can do as a coach. It's really more so on the players, in my opinion. But regardless, like them losing their director and their head coach and becoming just a little bit more unstable as a program, and if the players aren't happy and aren't going to be able to play Path to Pro, like they're not going to do well. Like honestly, like you got to build that really strong and positive environment and boost morale. But them losing their head coach and director is just a tough loss, honestly. I hope they don't
Ever since the last HUE Fest, that HUE Fest did not go super well for them, and ever since then, it feels like there's been a lot of frustration from maybe the higher ups at Harrisburg with the esports program as a whole. And that has caused a lot of, obviously this is just me speculating, but after that event, largely was not run super well last time it was run, and that caused some frustration from the higher ups, and then they maybe did a little bit of thinning out some people that I think have been doing great work for Harrisburg throughout the last year or so. So hopefully Shake finds a good next spot, because I think he's probably been doing a lot of good work for Harrisburg.
Yeah, it is really sad to see, honestly. Harrisburg has been like a top 5 program, like one of the top 3, like has even won collegiate championships like maybe once or twice. So I really hope the best for them. I really do. But honestly, like I said, I see them going downhill a little bit more.
But let's move on to a little bit of a more positive segment here. I've prepared a cute little graphic for our team on the rise this month. That is going to be our only newcomer to the top 20, Arizona State University. First of all, these guys have definitely put people on notice over the last week. I'm going to be honest, guys. This time last week, I did not have Arizona State on my radar at all. But they have kind of exploded over the last week. I think Angelic is playing for this team for the first time. I took a look at their Twitter account. I think Angelic was a coach for this team before, is now playing for them. So that's been a massive boost on the back line. They have I recognize the name Anhu, and you can tell me if anyone else knows a little more about that person. I feel like I've seen them in like the tier 3 scene a little while back. But The point is, this is a really solid roster that is headed up by a player with tons of Tier 2 experience, and they have 2 wins over ranked teams over the last week, which is incredibly impressive. They rocketed from nothing to number 16 on the rankings, which is really hard to do.
Yeah, heck yeah to them. Congratulations. This is what we love to see in Collegiate, just random teams come out of nowhere. I love it. So congrats to them on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember when they beat Bellevue. I put it in like the our chat we had, and we literally spent like 10 minutes trying to figure out who the college even was because we didn't even know who they were.
Yeah, I know last semester they've definitely made some improvements from last semester because Champlain, the team I coached, was able to beat them. Uh, they were still a very solid team though. I remember they put up a good fight and they've definitely looked like they made a ton of improvements and put in a lot of work since then because they've been putting up much better results.
100%.
Yeah, so they're definitely going to be a team to keep an eye on over the next couple weeks. They're definitely going to be getting more and more tough competition in ABC moving forward. They did take a loss to Rutgers, but of course they did beat Converse, so things are going to be shaking out quite a bit next semester with them. But of course, congrats to them for getting some really solid wins and getting on everyone's radar here.
Yeah. I will say I was a little hesitant to put them as high as 16th. I think I still put them around the 16th area. I was a little hesitant at first because they did beat 2 teams that are kind of on a downswing. Converse has been on a little bit of a downswing. They did really well early month, and they've been doing a lot worse recently. And then Bellevue hasn't really put up many good results this semester, so I was a little hesitant, but I still put them up there, and I think sitting on it more, I'm glad I did. I think they proved they deserve a spot on the list.
Absolutely.
Pioneer mentioned that Anhu, and I don't know how to say their name, Anhu, has a contender was competed in Contenders 2020 Gauntlet. They don't have their own page, but they played with the old roster Kara or Quara. I remember that roster.
That name just rings the slightest of bells. Like I know it existed at some point.
Mm-hmm. I remember that roster. So that's another player to take note of. I didn't know that, so it's good to know that now. But I knew Angelic. I've heard that player many
sure.
times. So yeah, so this is a really cool team to see. And I heard that their match against Rutgers was close, even though we only know that they went 2-0. But I heard from one of the Rutgers players that it was actually a fairly close game. So I actually had ASU at number 12. Honestly, like I see them going higher because they proved that they were able to beat Converse, they beat Bellevue, and they were close to Rutgers. So I think they can be much higher, honestly, and they can prove us all wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. They're definitely on the rise.
And speaking of teams on the rise, let's just go from one pretty graphic to the next. It is time for our first 5 out segment. Exclusively on the podcast. If you're joining us for the first time, we reveal the 5 teams, number 21 through 25, who just barely missed out on the rankings. We will take a look at them, talk about who has a good shot of getting in next time if they continue on their current trajectory, who is going down, who deserves to be on there, if not. This time around, though, congratulations, of course, go to Toronto for just barely, by 6 points, missing out on the top 20. They are on number 21 with 44 points. Number 22 is the former perennial top 10 team, SCAD, for the first time in OWCRA history, has been left off of the top 20 completely. Number 23, Northeastern, with 23 points, so that's kind of funny. 24 is UCLA, making their first appearance with 20, and then rounding it out is Miami, Ohio. I believe they were number 21 last time around. Now they fall down to number 25, at risk of falling out altogether. We got some old faces. We got some new faces. I think this is a very interesting first 5 out.
Yeah, I'll comment a little bit on Toronto and UCLA. A couple of those points were from me. I put Toronto, I think, at 19 and UCLA at 20. I think both of those teams have been on the rise for a bit now, and they're both deserving of at least this first 5 out status. I think Toronto especially has been showing they could definitely break into the top 20 soon. The other three teams, in my opinion, SCAD, Northeastern, and Miami, have been kind of on a downturn recently. I think Miami actually, for me, I would have rated higher than SCAD and Northeastern. Um, but either way, I think all three of those teams have been moving down and really need to prove they deserve that spot in the next coming weeks, or else they'll keep just going lower.
So as far as like what I would do as my first five out, I would take off Northeastern and Miami, Ohio from this, and I would add Washington and Auburn. I think Washington and Auburn have put up more results than Northeastern and Miami, Ohio.
I'm actually really surprised how little Washington got. I think they only got about like 10 points this time around. Which is a little unfortunate. I don't know. They're not in NECC. I don't know if they're in NACE. I don't know. I don't remember what exactly they're participating in. I just feel like they've been from my eyes and from what I've seen, they've been pretty quiet this month, which I think has kind of contributed to that. Toronto has not been quiet, though. They did beat Northeastern last week, and I think they had another pretty impressive win in ABC. I gotta take a quick look. They beat Miami, Ohio in the first weekend. So at least Toronto is being rated above Northeastern and Miami, Ohio, because those are two teams that they beat in the last couple, and they're going to. I think this month is going to be huge for Toronto to prove that they deserve to make that leap into the top 20.
For sure. I actually had Toronto at number 19 for me, and I had UCLA number 20. I think I took out Ohio State University. I took them out of my rankings, and I don't remember the other team I took out, but I actually had Toronto and UCLA in for my rankings. I think UCLA, as we talked about, they got a good wins over UCSD at the LAN, the online qualifiers or whatever it was, online bracket, and then they beat them at LAN so twice. And then UCLA, I think they have had other good wins. I think recently beat Northeastern as well. And then Toronto has just had multiple good wins against all the bubble teams. I almost put in Auburn. I was like super, super close. But I don't know. Toronto just has much more that they have proven much more results that they've proven to show.
Pioneer says rank Auburn cowards, and I will say Auburn is technically number 26 with 11 points. So very close.
I had them on my rankings. I was super close.
Yeah, I rank a couple teams outside of the top 20 as well, just to see where they're at and keep track of them. And Auburn was my 25th at the moment. The one team on the list the two teams on the list that I ranked a bit lower were Fisher Navy and Utah. I ranked them, I think, 23rd and 24th respectively, just because I don't think I've really seen much from them. They both got solid rosters, but I just haven't seen much to put them on the list, in my opinion.
I think Utah just beat, who was it? I think they beat Auburn.
Yeah, I think they beat Auburn, which is it was a good win, but Auburn's also not in the top 20 yet, so didn't know how much to weigh it.
Right. That's probably why Auburn's not even on the top 20 or even top 25, is that they lost I don't know, maybe they should be top 25. They've gotten some decent wins. They got an early win against Bobcats. People argue maybe preseason stuff don't really matter, or early season stuff, whatever. But I think it's something to take note of, honestly, because Auburn, I weren't on my radar at all until they beat Bobcats. So.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody, we are going to take a quick little break from the rankings now, and because we have the pleasure of doing the podcast on Friday today, it means that the next two rounds of the Overwatch Collegiate Championship are going to be going on tomorrow. It's going to be Collegiate Overwatch Mania tomorrow. We're going to have the CECC and ABC going on at the same time, basically. And the CECC has had to change their schedule around to make sure that everyone is able to play, which, by the way, cool guy admins making sure that they don't have conflicts. But let's take a quick look together at rounds 5 and 6. Let's take a look at the games to watch here. as we head into. So most of the high-ranking teams are going to be at the top. So immediately, Rutgers, Fisher, Redbird, Ball State, Toronto. Slug game, I think, is UC Santa Clara, who have quietly been pretty good. Ohio State, Boise State. There's a lot of really good stuff here. HU Storm versus St. Clair is actually what I'm super interested in. I think that's going to be a massive litmus test for Harrisburg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
If
like
St.
the
Clair
one
win
that
that,
I
oh my
put
gosh.
as like the one that I had as like the most important match of the week was that one. Yeah.
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 We
I
actually
also
have
think-
the, sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off.
you're
We
good.
actually have them in the Discord, by the way, if you want to take a look. We have them all the important matches. In the
Oh,
Collegiate Overwatch.
sure. Let's quickly pull that up.
Thanks to our boy Lion here.
Yep. Yeah, I did that last week, and then they redid all the matches. That was fun.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes, I
remember
saw
that.
that. That was unfortunate. Man,
But there
yeah,
were
that's
many.
exciting to see St. Clair versus Harrisburg. Holy crap! I didn't even know that they're facing each other. That is a real test for St. Clair. So I don't know if anybody from St. Clair is watching this, but if y'all win that shit, I will put y'all up high in my ranking. I'll give y'all number 1. I want to see y'all win that, honestly.
Yeah, I think
better.
another good match that we haven't mentioned is Fisher Navy versus Ball State, 19th versus 18th. That's going to be a good one just to see where Fisher Navy places, because I haven't really seen them play any of the like top 20 teams yet, and I think this will be a good test just to see where they place in there. They also play Rutgers as well, so if they even put up like a map against Rutgers, that's pretty good too.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Jokes aside, though. Jokes aside, I think from that match, honestly, though, the prediction, at least for that match, because that is the biggest match I would say, like St. Clair versus Harrisburg, number 11 ranked, number 8. Jokes aside, though, honestly, I think I do still see Harrisburg winning. I just feel like I don't know who's playing what role for their team right now since they lost Tap, but I think that they still have very insanely good players, very experienced players like Elk. Elk is very he was in the Overwatch League, he was on Philadelphia Fusion, so he can lead the team to victory, honestly. And they still have Noxious, who Noxious actually won the Canadian trials. He's been doing well. And I don't know what else. Other players, like Kawa is still pretty solid, and DDO, and I might be missing a player, Soms, something. So I do still see Harrisburg. That is my prediction for that match. I do still see Harrisburg winning.
This is scuffed as hell, but I finally got it in a way where I am not leaking our Discord server. So we'll go ahead. I just copied it into a document. So there we go. Yeah. Here are our notable matches. So St. Clair and Harrisburg is right there. Also Fisher Navy, a team that has been very much, we haven't really talked about them at all, but they've kind of been hanging around just the bottom of our top 20 for 2 weeks in a row now. I know we have the Paradox Muse and OWCRA, who was extremely high on his teams for obvious reasons. Fisher Navy is 4-0 right now, has really done quite well, but this is going to be the week where we really see what they're made of. Ball State recently coming off a win.
Do you want to, are the rankings are the matches supposed to be up on the screen? Because right now we're just seeing us.
Oh, is it? I think it is on the screen right now. 1 second.
Oh, is it? Maybe I'm wrong.
Is it?
I don't see that.
Here, I have it in...
There you go.
Okay,
yeah,
there you go.
I had it. Sorry, you're looking at my OBS, and I had it in the studio mode to make sure that everything was set up okay before I swapped it. There it is.
Never mind. Okay.
We're chilling. Yeah. Fisher Navy, number 19, going up against number 18 Ball State, but they are coming off of a win against Ohio State earlier on. So, I think Ball State, maybe if that had been taken into account, they would have been a little higher. I think it's going to be a really good litmus test for them. Also up against Rutgers. We're going to learn a lot about Fisher Navy tomorrow.
Man, Rutgers got to face ISU. That sucks. Unfortunate.
Yeah,
honestly, though,
match, but...
yeah, honestly though, like I wouldn't even be put Rutgers any lower because of that match, because that's just unlucky. Like ISU is probably gonna win that 100%.
Most teams aren't going to be taking a map off of ISU.
Yeah.
If you're not in the top 3, I don't think you're taking a map off of them.
I would say I would open it up to the top 6. I think Fisher, UCI, and Boise have an outside chance of doing it, but it is pretty heavily favored towards ISU.
Yeah, I don't remember from last semester, but I'm pretty sure ISU did not drop any maps to anybody outside the top 3. But
Actually, funny enough, I think last night they dropped a map to Bobcats. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, they did actually just drop a map to Bobcats. That's a good point.
I don't
So
know.
That
I
is
don't know the
true.
context behind. I don't know the context behind that. That's interesting.
yeah.
It is still very interesting. I think anytime ISU drops a map, it is very interesting because they are genuinely taking their matches pretty seriously. And it was like the first map of the series as well, if I was reading the sheet correctly. So it's not like they won the first map and then started goofing off and then they slipped up too much. It was like that was like
Oh,
opening up the series.
Yeah.
interesting. I don't
I
know.
can check and see what their players were for that match. I
Yeah,
don't
they
know if
might have
they
subs in.
reported
I
it.
don't know. Yeah, they might have just had their subs in. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But the collegiate committee, we take everything into consideration, even if it's like
We
trolling
try.
or something that like
We try our
we don't
hardest.
we do try our hardest. We don't know the context of every match. We don't know when people are trolling or stuff like honestly, we just see the results and that's what we take in consideration. So until we get context of the actual match, so it is interesting to us that they lost a map to Bobcats last night.
So
Yeah, they unfortunately didn't show the rosters. It was yeah, it was like their third map I think they played or second.
So let's quickly, at least for the first 3 things on this list, let's quickly get predictions from everyone. Personally, I think Harrisburg is still going to pull out the win against St. Clair. I think a lot of people are down on Harrisburg, rightfully so. But with the players on their roster, I think that they are going to prove that they still deserve a top 10 spot with a win against St. Clair here. I also, unfortunately, sorry Paradox Muse, I think Fisher is going to go 0-2 this week. I think Ball State... I think they have a much better shot against Ball State, but I think Ball State's going to be able to pull out that win. They're also going to lose to Rutgers, and that one is a lot less close, unfortunately, given how Rutgers has been playing recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think.
I,
Sorry,
I think for me it's 50-50 between St. Clair and Harrisburg. I've been very down on Harrisburg recently. I know they have very good players, but they just haven't been proving it. And I think for me it's just 50-50. Like I could flip a coin and I'd be happy with either result. And then I think I agree as well. I think Fisher Navy is going to go 0-2. Ball State's been doing really well recently. And then Rutgers I think is going to be a really tough one. But I think Ball State is like probably like in my opinion it's like a 75% chance for Ball State to win. And maybe 25 for Fisher. But
Yeah.
still definitely winnable.
Yeah. I have Ball State pretty high. Like I had them in my rankings. I had them like number 15. So in our rankings, at number 18. But I think Ball State's really, really good. I think my team has scrimmed them or played them once, and they're a good team. They have very like high ranked players, and I think even some notable players. I think their tank player is on like a tier 3 team or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, I think Harrisburg takes the match over in St. Clair. I think Ball State wins Fisher Navy, and I think Rutgers wins over Fisher Navy as well. I think they're just going to go 0-2, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would concur that I think Fisher Navy will be 0-2. I think Harrisburg will beat St. Clair. That's just my prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it go the other way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I will comment on the SCAD matches this week. I think we've been
They're
pretty
up
low
against
on
Penn
SCAD.
State and Florida, by the way.
Yeah, which neither of the teams is ranked, but I feel like those are both fairly losable for SCAD, which would really cement them as a team we're probably not going to be including on the list in the future. But I think those ones are good to watch just to see the status of SCAD this semester because they haven't been doing that well recently.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Because there was there was a quote tweet that I got that I want to quickly pull up, and I like pulling this out because I love seeing people use these rankings as like motivation for themselves to like pop off. That's what we saw with the UCSD last semester. So this is the manager of Penn State Overwatch. Dan, still disrespected. You gonna learn. Getting a win over SCAD is a pretty good way to like establish yourself as a team to watch for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, they definitely have some solid players. Do they still have Lucianal? I know they had them last semester, and then there are a couple other players that are recognizable.
Memory was on. Memory was the one who was on Chinese Contenders for a little bit, and they have Paz as well. Paz is a really solid support player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
They've got some good players, so I wouldn't be surprised if they win, but I think that one's definitely a good one to watch.
mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how Florida and Sky do. I'm a very big fan of this is University of Florida. I'm assuming, right? University UF.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
Um,
would assume so.
so
Gators.
I'm a big fan of their team. I've always thought that they have a lot of potential as a team. So I'm excited to see that match. I do like Sky though. I like their players. I'm big on Kabi and Skiz. Skiz is who's playing DPS now, I think.
I think
So
so.
I'm not sure who's gonna win that because I haven't been paying attention to their teams all too much this semester. But I wouldn't be upset if it goes either way, honestly. But
Mhm.
it'd be cool. That's a cool match to watch for sure. I think that's a match to watch, 100%.
Let's quickly touch on Boise versus Ohio State. Do you think there's any shot that Ohio State pull off the upset there? I think we are, as a whole, pretty down on Ohio State, and we all think Boise is pretty deserving of their top 6 spot. I think it would be a pretty significant upset if OSU won that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would be a big
Yeah.
upset. I don't think they take it. It is possible, but I think it's very unlikely seeing the results from both teams these past couple weeks.
Mhm.
No, I think Boise wins that 100%. Not a doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. And then we get to UT Dallas versus Washington, which usually I would almost certainly say that UTD wins that one on paper. That being said, I look at this match and I see a team that's like been outside the top 20 or just on the edge of the top 20 for a while. They're like really hungry to prove themselves. And then I look at UTD and it's like, this is the kind of match that UTD has dropped in the past. So I think I'm officially like I don't have a highlight feature here, but I think I'm highlighting this game as a potential upset alert here. And I'm sorry, Luey, I have to do it to you, but I think there's absolute possibility that that Washington will be able to upset this one.
Yeah,
No,
I
no
mean
worries.
that's kind of what put Utah on the map last semester was them beating UTD in the final week of ABC. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah, 100%. That's completely fair. Been a little inconsistent now and then, but I think if my players are at their game, have sleep, are ready for the match, they'll be just fine. Honestly, I'm not worried about the match at all.
You're
I'm
gonna
very
be
excited to
yelling. You're
face.
gonna be screaming at them at 9 p.m. Go to bed.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to their apartments and tell them to get their sleep. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to face Washington. Honestly, like I have been a little down on them, and I have said it before on the podcast. Like I think they have too big of egos than they actually should or deserve. So I'm excited that I'm happy. I'm very excited that my team gets to put them in their place. To be quite honest,
Ooh.
so
All
we'll
right.
see. We'll see how that match goes. I think my team just takes it over easily.
I like to see the confidence there.
Yes.
Oh, it's clipped now. You can't lose now.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It is now out here on the internet and it's never going away. So you better
Oh my
your
God, my
players
career's
better get
over.
their sleep tonight.
My career's over.
We got Toronto and Boise up next. I think this is also pretty heavily skewed towards Boise. I would be shocked if they lost this one. That being said, this is also the kind of thing I was talking about earlier, where this month we're really going to see Toronto start playing against these top 20 teams. They got wins against a couple other fringe teams, Northeastern and Miami, Ohio. This month we're going to start seeing them play against these really high-ranked teams, and it really is only going to take one win, I think, for them to like hop another team and get into the top 20. Maybe a Bellevue, who has really been kind of struggling lately.
Yeah, I'll say I don't. In a month, I possibly see Bellevue not even being on these rankings.
That's
Mhm.
possible.
Oh,
If
that
if
was the
they
other that was
if
the other team I
they
didn't have my
are
rankings.
if they continue their current trajectory, I think they end up off the rankings next month, unfortunately. Which sucks
that's-
because you look at their roster and it's like I like know all these players and they all have contenders experience, but they're like
Mhm.
it's just not fitting together this week. Maybe they just have too many tank players, I don't know. But it's just too much. There's just not enough going on. There's
Yeah, they kind of feel like they're in a SCAD situation where they've got some good players, but they've just been on a downturn recently and just fallen down the rankings.
Mhm.
Yeah, this I think I made a note of this in like our chat too, but like you look at their roster, it's really solid. Like I don't think it's fair to drop them yet because they lost one game to another ranked team, and now people are just ready to like completely drop them, which I I still had them in my rankings. I think they're like 16 or 17. I
Mhm.
still think they're a pretty good team.
Yeah, that's fair. I took them off my rankings because I see Toronto and UCLA and come up in Bellevue on the down. I think they're just gonna keep going down from here. I honestly hope not because I'm rooting for Bellevue. Like I think they have good players as well, and I'm familiar with them, and I think they're all friendly people. Um, but I just haven't seen anything good from them. I've only seen good things from Toronto and UCLA. So
Yeah.
I actually, like I said, I took off Ohio State, and I took off. That was the other team I took off earlier, or that I forgot to mention earlier was Bellevue. So I
Yeah,
took them off.
Bellevue was still on mine as well, but I think I had them around like 18th or so. I think at the moment they deserve that spot, but I could definitely see them going down.
Mhm. And then our next three matches is kind of interesting because it is our current top three teams going up against other currently ranked teams. ISU going up against Rutgers, Northwood against UCSD, and Maryville up against Utah. I think obviously all three of these teams are kind of in a league of their own when compared to the rest of the collegiate field right now. So I don't think there's much of a situation where we see any of these teams dropping, even though all three of these teams are really good. But I think it will say a lot if one of these teams is able to make it a good game, maybe even take a map off of one of them. That might say a little bit about where they might be standing relative to each other until we actually get to see them play each other.
Yeah, I just thought about it actually too. UCSD and Boise are having their land this weekend, so
True.
I'm wondering when these matches are going to be. And honestly, like UCSD, um, I don't know, like I don't know how they will do at a land competing. I imagine they're gonna be playing at a whole like at the land against Northwood.
Yes.
But if they have like if they're able to play some of their land matches beforehand and everything's going well for them, like everything's going their way, maybe there's a potential upset for Northwood. Maybe. I think it's very, very unlikely. Like, but UCSD is just like such a weird team. I just don't know. So as for the other matches, I don't think they like that's just a given like ISU Maryville like they're just gonna win. UCSD versus Northwood, I think small, very very small, very very small chance that there's an upset.
It like has to
Yeah.
be like they have won all of their matches at LAN prior to those matches, and like they are just running off of a high, and they're on adrenaline, and they're at LAN, and it would
Yeah.
have to be like a perfect storm of crazy stuff going against Northwood. I do agree it's pretty small. Also, we may as well include the other ISU game against Ball State in there. Ball State's a really good team. I like them a lot. I don't think they're beating ISU.
Yeah,
No,
and also another thing
Yeah.
to take note of is just we've seen Northwood lose matches like they shouldn't be losing. Like they just kind of just throw games or like they're known for doing that. So maybe they won't do that. I mean, they have half their rosters like brand new. Maybe they have a different mentality. They have a new head coach now. But they might come into the match just be like, oh, it's just another random team. Like I don't know who this is. Like we're gonna troll. But
yeah.
UCSD might come in swinging. It might
Noreen, I'm
actually take a
curious.
map. And
I'm cutting off. Noreen says Florida versus Ottawa is live right now for AVGL. Is it live like they're currently playing, or is it being streamed right now? I'm curious.
oh,
Because that's an interesting. Ottawa is not really a team that's really like on my radar. I don't think they've won a map in NACE Legend or NECC Legends yet, but
Yeah.
it would be interesting. I haven't really seen anything from Florida yet this semester, so I'd love to see them if they're up there. Speaking of Florida, we can go ahead and move on to our next three. We've got UTD and Auburn, which is technically number 26. Fisher versus UCLA, technically number 24, and then Florida versus SCAD. Actually, we may as well just talk about these last five in like a group because they're at the bottom of the list for a reason. Whereas they're either like a fringe team versus a fringe team, or it's a high rank team versus a fringe team. So UTD Auburn, Fisher UCLA, Florida SCAD. We have St. Clair going up against Kennesaw, which was a ranked team at the start of OWCRA, but they've kind of dipped down. They're trying to get back in the conversation. And then at the bottom here, we have Illinois Orange versus CIU.
yeah. So UTD actually we played our match against Auburn last night. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, we took that match pretty easily 2-0. So
Well, there you
that
go.
one that doesn't
That
probably
one,
doesn't
we don't even need.
Yeah.
So what are your
Yeah.
predictions, everybody? What do you think's gonna? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I feel
Upset
like
alert.
the Fisher versus UCLA, I feel like that's an easy Fisher. Kennesaw versus St. Clair, I feel like it's a pretty easy St. Clair choice. The other two, I feel like are a bit more 50-50. I think I'm a little low on CIU still, so I think Illinois Orange is probably going to take that one. And then Florida versus SCAD is another one where I'd like to see SCAD win, because I want to see them going back up, but I could also see Florida because Florida's a very solid team as well.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, it is
I
being
would like
streamed. That'll be
I
cool.
would like to. I mean, I think Fisher versus UCLA. That one's gonna be interesting because we've seen UCLA take matches off UCSD, so they have the potential to beat teams that should be like top 10 or like at that level. So honestly, that might be like a really interesting match to watch. I still think Fisher wins, honestly though, but I'm thinking maybe like 80-20%, like 80% Fisher, like 20% UCLA. Like UCLA has like a very small chance,
I
but
think I
it
would
has
give
a
it.
chance.
I'd give it less than that. I would say 90% Fisher,
Yeah, that's
personally.
Yeah,
fair. That's
I
that's
could
completely
see,
fair.
in my opinion, they've got like a 20% chance of taking a map, but I think them
Mm.
actually winning is much
I'm-
more far-fetched.
I'm just gonna say it, and I feel bad because I think UCLA is a really great school. I know they beat UCSD at the very start of the semester. Ever since then, I have not been super impressed by them.
But they beat
They did beat
Northeastern.
Northeastern.
They
Yeah.
beat Northeastern.
Oh my god, I
Yeah.
forgot they beat Northeastern.
Yeah.
I haven't been
But it was
impressed by Northeastern either, though. They lost both their
Actually-
games last week.
That is a
Actually,
good.
that match was 2-1 though, so
Yeah, that
True.
was a very close match against
it
Northeastern.
wasn't
that they won.
anything super impressive to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I take that back. Maybe it is just 100% Fisher, no chance for UCLA.
I would say
Yeah,
10.
I would-
I'd still give UCLA a 10% chance, but I think it would have to be more stuff going wrong with Fisher than things going right for UCLA.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fair point. 100%.
Yeah,
I
I'd be
guess
very
as
surprised.
for the next match, I honestly am rooting for Florida. I want Florida to win. So I think they're hard grinders, and as I said before, like I know the guys and I know how their team operates actually. So and I know like they're really driven. So I think that Florida might win that actually. I think it's like maybe like 60-40, like more in Florida's favor.
Totally.
I've always thought of like Florida as kind of like an Oklahoma of like OWCRA, because it's just two like random teams that always seem to get votes, and I never really know why, because I've never really seen anything from Florida really
Florida had a
that proves they
little
should like.
blip last semester where they did pretty well.
They were second
Um,
place, I think, in the CECC South. East.
Yeah.
Yes, East. I forget
They-
West and East sometimes, but Southeast qualifier.
They did something last semester. I can't remember what, but they did fairly well. And then I guess I'm looking at the chat now. Noreen also said Florida versus Ottawa is 1-1, and I've been very low on Ottawa recently.
Yeah.
So seeing that makes me not want to put Florida on anywhere near the list. I'm not gonna lie, but
That's fair.
Absolutely.
I gotta keep it spicy though. I gotta vote for the underdog and keep it spicy.
Oh yeah.
I
as
still
you
think
do.
it's very losable for SCAD. So
Oh wait, this is not. This is a different team that's in NECC actually.
oh, is it?
Yeah, this is Ottawa Braves. They're in Kansas. I don't think that's Ottawa
Oh,
Garnet
okay.
in NECC.
Oh, Ottawa
Yeah,
Braves
they're-
is a champions team in NECC. I'm pretty sure. So
Which-
they're even a division lower.
Yeah, that's
So-
interesting. So yeah, it's not Ottawa Garnet, but it's still
Okay.
very interesting. I've casted this team a couple times in the last couple weeks. So
Yeah, I think they're a
Fascinating,
solid team
fascinating.
for that second level in NECC, but I don't think they're a Legends team.
no, I don't think so either. Florida should win this game pretty easily. That being said, Ottawa did take a map off of them. Uh-oh. I was watching the stream. The game just got canceled. They were in the
Oh,
middle of the
no.
game, and it got sent back to lobby for no reason. Oh, God, that sucks.
No, that sucks.
Oh, you absolutely hate it when that happens. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
that's actually so unfortunate that I got it at that exact moment. Oh, man.
Unfortunate.
Absolutely unlucky. We are getting pretty close to 2 hours on the pods, everyone, so I don't want to keep you up here for too long. I'm going to go ahead and switch us back to the main Collegiate Overwatch ranking. Is there anything that you guys would like to mention here? Any kind of closing thoughts before we get into bold predictions?
I can go first. Yeah, like I said, I do see like, I mean, I guess this is bold predictions, but
Well, wait, it's not
my
bold
bold.
prediction. It's not bold predictions yet. Just closing thoughts on the rankings.
Oh, okay. I mean, honestly, I think these rankings are pretty solid. Like, I think that I know, some, we can't make everyone happy, but I think that I'm not upset about this. I don't agree with some of these rankings, but I think a lot of these placings for the teams make sense, most of them at least. And I'm excited to see like where some like these like brand new team like ASU, brand new team in top 10 Rutgers. I'm excited to see where they go, honestly. And there's a lot of interesting things that are going to go on the next month, 100%. Like I think the next podcast is going to be full of very interesting matches and very interesting playoffs are coming soon. It's all going to be super, super interesting next podcast. So I'm excited to see where all the rankings, how they shift this month.
Yeah, absolutely. Next month is going to be very illuminating. We're going to get the rest of the Swiss bracket. We're going to get down to it in the AVGL event, and that's going to cause a lot of stuff to happen. There's going to be more matches going on in the University of Kentucky Swiss. NECC matches are going to be happening. We might be getting into some NACE playoffs, and then we're going to be getting into some ranked teams versus ranked team action. There's going to be absolutely a lot to talk about. There will be Winton, hopefully. Buff Winton for Season 4, please, Blizzard. Would appreciate that. Or in the mid-season patch. The mid-season patch is coming out soon, right? That's like next week, isn't it?
I don't know.
That's a good question. I have no idea.
I want to say none of us actually play the game. I want to say it's either next week or the week after is the mid-season patch.
Yeah, it's pretty soon as far as I know.
But the point is that I think a lot of teams are unhappy with where they were placed. Maryville, obviously, I think we're the loudest, but there are definitely a bunch of other teams who weren't placed who think they should be. Next week is like not next week. Next month is like the real meat and potatoes of the Collegiate Overwatch season, and it's going to be like this is the time to kind of put up or shut up, win these matches, and earn yourself a spot on the rankings or higher on the rankings if that's what you're aiming for.
Oh hell yeah!
One shout out I'll give another team that's been pretty loud is SLU. They've been pretty loud on Twitter about how they've not been on the rankings now for like 2 or 3 in a row. And I think they're 4-0 as well in ABC.
Okay.
So if they want to be put on the rankings, they got to win some good matches. So
you know what, SLU, don't fret. I can in fact let you know that you got 1 point.
Yeah, that is true.
They did get 1 point.
It was I think that put them around like 32nd or something.
So at least
a single person put you number 20, but that's not nothing.
That isn't nothing.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to start to wrap up the stream here. It feels like 2 hours has passed by extremely fast, but as we do, it is going to be a full month before we come back onto the stream, and there's going to be a lot that's happening. So we want to put some bold predictions out into the internet space, and, if it happens, then we'll say I told you so. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. Last time, I put out a pretty silly bold prediction. This time around, I'm going to be a little more serious. Next month is going to be the CECC Midwest regional qualifier. Illinois State is in there. My bold prediction is Illinois State does not win this event. I think they have to earn their spot in the national by winning Last Chance. The field for Midwest is stacked. You've got Northwood in there as well, so we're going to be seeing ISU versus Northwood in that event for sure. Ohio State is in the mix. Ball State is in the mix. Bethel, who beat Ohio State, is also in the mix. There's a lot of really good teams playing in there right now, and I think that I think my bold prediction is one of them is going to get the better of Redbird Esports for the first time in a really long time during that event. That's where I'm going to stake my claim.
I think my bold prediction is that ASU makes it possibly in the top 10, at least top 12 in the next rankings. And I think that in AVGL,
Let's
they just
go
took a
bold.
3-1.
Hey, let's go bold. Top 10.
Top 10? Okay. ASU top 10. And I think, yeah, they're in AVGL as well. They just took a 3-1 against Converse. I think that I haven't looked at the bracket, but I think they're going to go pretty far and maybe even like top 4.
I'll do my bold predictions. I think the Blinn fans will like me. I think Blinn is going to I don't think they're going to make the list, but I think they're going to get a few points for once. I think they're going to make top 25. I feel like they've been on the rise recently. And yes, they haven't been ranked, and I don't think they're getting any points either. But I wouldn't be surprised if they start getting points very soon.
Hey, I mean, yelling at us a lot on Twitter is a good way to make us at least know you exist.
True. I think their team's pretty solid, and I think they definitely could make a shot for at least top 30, if not top 25.
Let me see if I can find them here. I wonder who they play this week. They're in ABC, right?
I think so. Let's see.
Where are you, Blinn? Are they in ABC or are they NACE only? Oh wait, here they are. Blinn College Blue. They play. Is this their main
Waterloo?
team? They play Waterloo and OUB team. So okay, they actually don't face anyone super great this week. They did end up losing to Fisher last week, so that's why they got a little bit easier. If they 2-0 that, then they're certainly going to get a solid competition in the week after, going 5-1 overall. So, well, there'll definitely be opportunities for Blinn to get themselves on the board here.
Yeah, so my bold prediction is that next month a team will by the rankings next month, a team will have established themselves as number 1. So I think that next month when the rankings come out, there will be a clear number 1 and no one will be upset with the fact that they're number 1.
It wasn't a bold prediction until you said no one will be upset.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It's like how we had
surprising.
It's like how we had ISU first all last semester and no one cared. I think a team will be like that by the next month.
What is the likelihood that one of them face each other? I guess maybe AVGL or maybe
AVGL, probably Northwood and ISU.
I mean, by the time next month the Swiss is going to be completely done, if ISU, Northwood, Maryville sweep their bracket up to that point, as we expect them to, I really don't expect those 3 teams to lose in ABC to anyone other than those 3. So eventually, theoretically, they will eventually run into each other.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see that. Hell yeah. It's going to be dope.
Next month is going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot for OWCRA to digest, but it also means there's going to be a lot of collegiate action to keep up with, and we're going to be doing our best to keep it organized and bring that information to you in forms of our weekly rankings next month. But for now, that is going to wrap up the second episode of the OWCRA podcast. I appreciate everyone who joined us at any point of the podcast, however long you stayed. We appreciate you. We appreciate you being a part of this and showing as much passion for Collegiate Overwatch as we have over here. Any closing thoughts here from our guests?
This podcast this month was a little bit more chill and kick back. Not too much going on right now, but next month is going to be fucking great. So tune in next time.
All right. Lion, Drew, anything?
No, I think we've covered everything we need to cover, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for coming on and taking a lot of time off of your Friday night to come on this stream. And hey, why don't you guys head on over to the AVGL stream and watch the matches in progress over there. I'll link it in chat right now. For those of you who are not, of course, the AVGL matches are going on right now. I think there's going to be streams for that throughout the weekend. We are going to have various ABC things going on this weekend. We're also going to have a lot of CECC content this weekend as well. So it's a huge weekend for Collegiate Overwatch, but and we are going to be watching all of it. But for us here at the OWCRA podcast, that is going to be it. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.